Hey guys, it's Adam. I hope you're doing fantastic. Welcome to Do You Watch Anime, a show where I sit down with a guest every week and ask them, Do you watch anime? And we go from there. And today joining me is voice actor in such anime as My Hero Academia, Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, and The Red Ranger becomes a hero in another world. Bradley Gareth, how are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you. I know those titles, they keep getting longer.
Straight up. So, do you watch anime?
I do. I watch a lot of anime.
So, how did you originally get into watching anime?
So I mean, when I was a kid, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh were on. I grew up late '90s, early 2000s. There was Fox Kids, and then Fox Box that later became 4Kids. Then there was, you had Toonami for the period of time, Toonami Jetstream for that little period of time after that, and then Toonami came back, I think, when I was in high school.
Mhm.
But I mean, I watched like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, I think Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Digimon, obviously, because I'm super into that, Case Closed, stuff like that, back when that block was on. And then, I guess, it's the thing of when do you learn that they're not cartoons? And my sister had been into it. She had like manga for Bleach, I think, and Fooly Cooly, and she was like,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
And I just she didn't really tell me to watch. I just sort of like bugged her to let me be involved in what she was doing. And yeah, then I started getting into that. Got, stayed up way too late, watched Adult Swim, watched like Yu Yu Hakusho, stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
Evangelion, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So, what are some of your favorite anime?
Hold on, I have a list that I keep
Oh
curated.
boy. Oh, I
So let
love
me.
that. Let's go.
All right. Let me see. I don't know why I didn't have this pulled up. I figured the question might pop up. All right. Top 10. Number one is Case Closed. I
Okay.
love Case Closed. Number two is Evangelion.
Mhm.
Three is Big O. Uh, I haven't seen it. Haven't heard of it.
No, I haven't that one I haven't even heard of. Yeah.
No, that's Big O's great. I mean, it was on the Adult Swim programming block.
Okay.
It was animated partially by the team that did Batman the animated series in the '90s.
Oh.
It took a lot of, like Evangelion, it took a lot of
Mhm.
inspiration from Twin Peaks.
Okay.
It features the creator and writer of, if you're familiar with like Serial Experiments Lane, like
Oh,
that. It's
okay.
got
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so it's about a guy that's a negotiator who pilots a giant robot,
Of course.
uh, and it's in a city where like everybody lost their memories 40 years ago. It seems pretty apparent that like it's probably New York City after like an apocalypse that happened in like the 1920s.
Okay.
It's super, and it's like a
Huh.
noir detective thing too.
Yeah.
It's super cool. I love it. I love Big O.
Oh, I
I
love that.
fully whole throatedly recommended it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely putting that one on the list. Holy crap.
Yep,
Oh my
love
god.
it. I guess I'll just go through the rest of the top 10.
Yeah.
Fourth is the old Rama show. Haven't seen the new one yet. And '90s Rama one half. Fifth is the old Shaman King show. Also haven't
Hell
seen the
yeah.
new one yet. Sixth is, as I said, Yu Yu Hakusho. Seventh is Cowboy Bebop. Eighth is Dragon Ball Z. Ninth, I'm seeing here, is Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, and
Okay.
tenth is Digimon season one.
Hell yeah. Oh my god, I love that. So, what is it about Case Closed that makes it your favorite?
I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, I love detective stories for one thing.
Mhm.
It was just, it was weird, right? Because Case Closed, when it came out, um, they didn't know what to do with it, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's
Yeah.
considered a kid show in Japan. But I mean, like, also, one of the very first, like, 20 or so episodes features, like, a grisly axe murder where a lady's body parts are left all over the woods.
Yeah.
So I guess I loved how like mature it was, weirdly, because like it was on Toonami very briefly, and then of course I imagine they got some phone calls in, and then it got moved to Adult Swim. But like Case Closed doesn't seem right when stuck next to like Fooly Cooly or like Robot Chicken or whatever.
Mhm.
So then of course that also fizzled out. I guess my thought is tonally I love detective series, and then it's also kind of like a melodramatic soap opera. I've like kept up with the manga even past where the dub went. And I really love it for that. It's still like I can't deal with a ton of gore, Personally, man, like even if the murders get pretty grisly, they're never like, oh well, we're putting my hand in the intestines or something. That's never it never gets to that point. It isn't like Saw or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little mystery series, and then it's very fun. I really liked the old dub. It was really really good. And a lot of love and charm is put into that. Even outside of it, I mean, some of my favorite books, The Big Sleep by it's a Philip Marlowe. So what's the name of that one? Look at The Big Sleep. That one is really really good. Was it Manual of Detection? Maltese Falcon was good. I took a whole detective fiction class in college that really helped open some stuff. What is it? The ABC the Alphabet series for Kinsey Milhone, also good. Funnily enough, there's one. What is it? V.I. Warshawski. I forget what that series is called. I know it's referenced in Case Closed directly. There's a character in Japanese where her name is a reference to something. Where in the dub to sort of transliterate it, they changed her name to Vi Hawthorne, and the Vi is a reference to V.I. Warshawski, who's a detective that's in like popular American fiction.
Damn.
So yeah, I'm very intensely into detective stuff.
Oh my god, I love it. I love that. And then it's funny because you have Case Closed, which is like all detective and whatnot, and then Digimon.
yes, absolutely. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like, I know is like what was available to me when I was like 10, and that's just sort of stuck with me for the rest of my life. And I've sort of, there were periods of time where I'd be like, I don't know, maybe this should adjust, but I've realized I'm sort of pretty steady on with what my interests are over the years. I've kind of had the same ones for forever, so I'm just like, I'm just gonna love this stuff forever.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I recently watched the first Digimon movie back, like,
oh nice,
like a couple years ago, like from childhood, and I was like, oh my god, this slaps so hard.
It's great.
It's so good, so good. Like, oh my god, and the soundtrack, 10 out of 10.
I've watched that movie I don't know how many times. I have the VHS for it up there in a cabinet there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wore through the VHS when I was a kid.
That makes sense.
Yep, because I swear I even memorized the Angela Anaconda short before it.
I mean, that's also so quotable. But made by people who blatantly didn't watch the movie, didn't know anything about the movie.
Exactly.
They're like, it's like Power Rangers, right? So she just turns into the Digimon, and they're like, that's probably good. That's probably good. Yeah, it's probably fine.
Yeah, good enough.
Good enough. It'd be like if someone's like, all right, you need to turn something into Pokemon. They're like, that's like a magical girl show, right?
Yeah,
that's what that
is. Just magically turns into Pikachu.
Yeah, you're turning into a Pikachu. Yeah.
It's the only Pokemon they can name.
Exactly. Or one of those like Midwestern parents who like would call every Pokemon Pikachu or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of those Pikachus, right?
Yeah, it's one. Exactly. So moving on to your voice acting career.
Sure.
You voice Hikage Shinomori, aka the fourth user of One for All.
Yes.
How was it? What was your reaction to being cast in something like My Hero Academia?
Well, I can tell you right now, I was pumped beyond belief. So what had happened was, I had wanted to do this since God. I figured out the voiceover existed as a career path in like 2011.
Okay, yeah.
But like the thing that I kind of knew, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, was like, moving down to Texas, you would hear horror stories of people that would like, move down and like live in their car trying to like make it in anime because they couldn't afford rent and they didn't have like any connections, any money, any jobs, anything. And it just, a bunch of people had to sort of crash out and move back home. So I was like, well, I don't want that to happen. So what I did was, I was like, well, okay, I'll go to college. At my mom's insistence, which I'm like, I'm glad she did this. She insisted I do that. I went to college and got like a degree for like a normal day job to help pay the bills, and then saved up money so that I could move down to Texas with enough sort of ammo going so that I'd be ready whenever I got there, because I was really worried about not being ready. Also, even like as an actor, as a person, all sorts of things. But the upshot of that was that I spent pretty much all of the 2010s sitting there being like, wish I could be in this thing, wish I could be in this thing, wish I could be in this thing. So then when I got into My Hero, it would happen where it'd be like, man, I think I could be great for that character. And then they animate the part, I go, damn, and I'd be like, all right, I'll be great for that character. And I go, got to that part, and I'd be like, all right. Finally, when the audition came around, I was like, well, I'm super new, because I think I had only been in Crunchyroll for about a year at that point. I was already like, I'm probably not getting in. I auditioned, and then I got it, and I freaked out. I was just like, oh my god, they let me do this. So it was super cool. It was super rewarding. It was the weirdest thing ever to like hear, to be like in the booth, like vibrating, basically hearing Justin Briner's takes back to me in the headphones.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and the director at the time was
Mhm.
Colleen Klinkenbeard, and I had to like not freak out because she was one of the stars of Case Closed, and I was like, I can't say anything about it.
Oh my god, I love that. So what has been like a highlight for you voicing Hikage?
I feel like just the experience of doing so. I'll say that like Hikage is a character who oftentimes, a lot of the time, quiet characters in shows can make more of an impact on audiences than the actor necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Where like are you familiar with like Oran High School Host Club?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Maury, where I think
Yeah.
like Travis Willingham would say like Maury, he maybe was in there for like 2 or 3 hours total for the whole show, and he's like, but people like the character, and it's like just him saying a name. That's kind of how Hikage is. Like I went to see the last movie, and it's funny to just be like, oh, he's there, oh, he's on the screen. I didn't record for this, but he's there. He just doesn't have anything to say.
Yep.
But he's the quiet guy, and I mean, like, it was just so cool. Like the period of time that he really has a ton of relevance in the manga is pretty small, but it was so neat to sort of have that moment, and like there was sort of a magic to for whatever reason, my fiance and I guess just out of force of habit, we were like, we're not going to keep up with what it's doing on streaming. We're not going to keep up with My Hero on streaming. We're just going to watch it whenever we finally get the Blu-rays in. So
Okay.
finally getting to like, and we had done that for years and years. So, we had like all the seasons, and then we finally got to the 7th season, I think in the second half, where I'm that character, and it's like, it's crazy, right? Like,
Mhm.
you do it for that long, and you're like, yeah, I guess I am in this show actually that I've been watching for like a decade. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my god. So with My Hero coming to an end soon,
Yeah.
for the anime, the manga's finished. How does it feel to be even just a small part of like such a hit of a show like My Hero?
Oh, it's magical. I mean, I I love it. To me, I guess the thought process is the size of a show doesn't matter necessarily that
Mhm.
much in terms of cultural impact. At
Yeah.
least when it comes to like, I I feel like my taste, especially as I've gotten older, has been not as hipstery as some of my friends, but kind of in the ballpark of like, I don't know, I'm watching anime from like 25 years ago and like not keeping up with the new stuff. So like,
Mhm.
it's really cool. My Hero was one of those ones where a friend recommended it to me before the anime even came out, because she had read the manga. She was like, you should really check this out, because I think it's going to be big. And then
Mhm.
I read it, and I was like, this is spectacular, because I had kept up with the whole manga. I read all the way through. And I it's weird because I mean, it's not quite the same. I think as the effect of like if I was one of the characters that's like sort of proverbially in the front, like,
Mhm.
because you have to watch through 7 seasons of material to even get to where my character is. So I'm like, I'm not no not many kids are going to be jumping up and down looking for my autograph or anything. So it's the magic more on that end than the recognition. It becomes like almost an interesting piece of like conversation where the reaction is like, oh my god, can I get something from you? It's like, oh, that's really neat. How'd you do that? And I think that's fine enough as is, right? Like I loved reading it. I loved being part of it, and then God, I guess it's just weird to learn that to have that perspective, because like I had done so many tiny little things. I had done so many tiny visual novels and indie games and stuff like that before I'd gotten to that point, and I'd never been attached to a franchise like My Hero's size before, in like
Yeah.
any capacity. And I mean, it was cool to have people some people were excited to come up to me and like be like, yeah, I love that section of My Hero just because they're such big fans. And that is extremely cool.
Mhm.
It's a very small part of the experience because, again, I'm not gonna aggrandize. I'm not gonna go up to someone and be like, so my character's the main character actually. But
Yeah.
no, it's awesome. It's super cool to get to be part of something that has touched so many people, and I'm extremely grateful. I feel so lucky that I got to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So aside from Danger Sense,
Right.
if you could have any quirk in My Hero, which one would it be?
Oh, a lot of them are like inconvenient. So like, give me
Yeah.
a second. Yeah. Gosh. Trying to think. Funnily enough, I've never been asked this question before. I mean, I think I'd probably, because I'd want something that would be like unobtrusive. So maybe like the one that maybe a quirk that would let you fly. That seems
Yeah.
like that'd be one of those things where it's like you could do a little bit of it and never make it a huge problem. Never get like grabbed by the FBI or something.
Yeah, we're taking you in. You're too skilled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like an X-File that week.
Yeah, exactly. So you voice Logi in, I'm just going to call it Red Ranger.
Yep, that's what we call it. So
Yep,
yep.
yep. It's just easier that way. So how was it playing the straight man to Ethan's Red Ranger? Because oh, so good.
It's funny you say that because I just had this guy. I just ran into Ethan who plays the Red Ranger,
Yeah.
and his partner. I would say I'd argue. I mean, Red is a little bit more bouncy and happy and sort of wacky. Logi's insane.
Oh,
Logi's
yeah,
just
he's
completely out of his gourd. So I mean, like, I'd hesitate to call him a particularly stable person.
True.
So I mean, I loved it. I love being Logi.
Yeah.
It was a great combination of things I really wanted to do over the course of my career. I got to scream attack names, and then also be a complete weirdo screaming about this princess that I'm obsessed with.
Oh God.
And it's very funny. I think I appreciate it just because like I think I played a fair amount of villains, and I'm like, it's so funny to have an interpretation where it is like they are. It seems, at least from the manga and from what I've seen of the show, he and the princess are basically in what amounts to a soft relationship, right? Like,
Yeah.
it seems she's not saying, she never says no.
Yeah.
To any of the weird things that he says. She's just like, well, it is what it is. She's like, I guess this is the price I pay.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that he's so weird and so possessive, but also, when the chips are down and the demons are coming, she's the one that bosses him around and is like, you need to kill them now. and he's like, okay, all right.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I love that. And like, the whole show is super fun. I love his relationship with like Red. I love his relationship with Teltina. It's so, again, that one's really fun. Whereas Hikage is me in the booth vibrating, trying not to screw up because I'm so nervous about being this character that is so like controlled and like so like serious and completely and utterly stoic. In Logi in the booth, I'm screaming like every line. I'm like prepared. Like, I remember there would be mornings I'd come in at like 10:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I'd barely just woken up, and then see the line, and then I see like 7 seconds of screaming, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. All right, we're going in. So that was a ton of fun.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Was there any like specific moment you vividly remember breaking out in laughter afterwards, or was it just screaming?
I'm trying to remember. I think we laughed a lot during the recording process.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of a specific moment. Oh my god. Just because so much of that show is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the moment where, and it happens in other anime, right? This is what like some, I guess, Japanese thing where Teltina's like, I need you to work with Red. If you do, I will clean your ear for you. And I'm like, and he's like, yes, I will do it. And I'm like, this guy is so freaking weird, man. Like, that's always like, it's in other things. And I'm still like, what is that? That is not an enjoyable experience.
Yeah,
They're like, "Can you clean my ear, please?"
I forgot about that.
It's so strange. I
Oh
mean,
my
that's also
god.
one of those things where you're like, do they make cotton swabs in this medieval fantasy world? Do they
Yeah.
have little Q-tips you can buy at the
Yeah.
store?
Oh my
Ugh.
god, it's so good.
It's so funny. I love it.
Yeah, it's such a good show. When I watched it when it first came out, like the sub came out, and I was like, I need this in dub right away. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
I love that. I just also love that the fact that um unlike normal isekai where the protagonist basically becomes this world, the
Yes.
protagonist is like, nah, I'm just red.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly. He needs a team, right? Like,
yeah.
and that's the thing. And I love that for it. I do love how different it is from other isekai in that regard. He's not overpowered or anything.
No.
He needs help. He loses frequently when he's on
Yeah.
his own. He just gets his ass kicked. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that about the dub because I'll
Mhm.
tell you this. That's one other thing I guess when it comes to like being part of a big franchise. And this is like sort of just something that you learn over time, especially as a dub voice actor.
Mhm.
I had this experience once, and I feel like this will help illustrate it the best. Where I was at my friend's apartment. It was William Afebu. He voices a number of other characters. He voices uh, Gabimaru the Hollow, so like the convict that my character is assigned to in Hell's Paradise.
Yeah.
So I'm at his apartment, and I think we're helping him move in. And then there's a guy setting up like I think like his cable or his TV or something in another room.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, I don't know, I'm moving a box or like unpacking something. He's like, Brad, get in. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? And he was like, do the thing. Like shows me to this guy, and he's like, do the thing. I'm like, what thing are you talking about? And he's like, this guy watches Blue Lock, and I'm like, oh yeah, on audio in Blue Lock. And then the guy's like, I watched the sub, man. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back out to the living room. And that's the thing, right? Is that
Yeah.
a lot of people do that. So like the reaction that you get from most people when you even tell them that what you do, a lot of the time you can't control it. It's always going to be something different, and you're just
Yeah.
like, it's nice to just have it for you. And then when you're in the spaces where you're like, people can be like, oh yeah, that's cool, man, that's great. Otherwise, if you tell it to most normal people don't even know voice actors really exist. So
No.
like, and again, you could be like, oh yeah, I'm on the dub of this show, and then the other person's like, that one, I hate the dub for that. I watched the sub. I don't know. No offense to you, obviously, but like,
Yeah.
like that's the thing. That's the thing is that it's an odd position. I know people like I know Johnny Bosch has talked about like publicly, like I think it's Nero from Devil May Cry 5 that he played. I know he plays Dante in the old show or in the new show, but he was Nero in 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And he discussed a nice thing about that job was that his track was the original track. Like that's the language, that's the default language option in Devil May Cry. Because he was like, so that way it is far less likely that people will come up to me and be like, I prefer the Japanese.
That's
so
crazy.
Like, yes, I get that.
God.
I do get that. I love anime. That is something that you're like that you just kind of have to deal with that is that sort of attitude toward it.
Yeah. Yeah, like even I'll tell like some people I know being like, "Oh, I'm having this person on the show." And they're like, "Oh, I don't like this part." And I'm like,
"Yep.
Keep that to yourself."
Yep, 100% sounds right.
Yep. I'm like, "Shush." Oh my god. So, moving on to Gundam.
Sure, yeah.
You voice Guel.
Yes.
Who at the start I was like, this guy's just a dick. This guy.
Yes.
And then he becomes so much more layered. How was that as an actor?
So Guel was an interesting case. The same friend who actually recommended me My Hero to read, also before we even knew we were dubbing it, was like the new season of Gundam is really good. You should check it out. I was like, I'll get around to it because everything's on my backlog. And then the audition comes along, and I'm like, okay, we'll watch the first few episodes because like I need to get ready. And like I had already heard sort of the entire arc for the first season, which I mean, there's a whole new Gundam show out. I guess I can like kind of talk about it. Like to where the first season ends had already been out, so I already kind of knew like, oh, that's where we're going. And something extremely traumatic happens at the end of season 1 to Guel.
Yep.
And like I knew, the season presents him much more sympathetically as it goes on. So I kind of, there was this thing about it as an actor where when I approached it, I'm relatively open about this subject. Whenever the audition came along, I remember because I was helping a couple of my friends. I was like talking to them about it who had also gotten the audition. One of the lines I think was the line where he's talking to his dad, and his dad like smacks him across the face, and afterwards he's like, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And I had friends who had like read that line, and this is my perspective. I had friends who read that line and stuttered, and I'm like, no. I know if you're in that situation, if you stutter too much, he will smack you again. You need to be able to get that out faster. That is just the nature of what being in that kind of father son relationship is like,
Mm-hmm.
which I kind of knew growing up, and I guess the feeling that I got playing that character was that really helped contextualize it, because like I had also. Are you familiar with Revolutionary Girl Utena?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Guel is like pretty hard referenced on Sionji, a guy who has no redeeming quality.
No.
a guy whose only redeeming quality is that he is pathetic.
Yeah.
I think that the thing about Guel that I knew kind of going in with that, and that I sort of tried to bring to the table was, there's this, he sucks at the beginning. He's like an abusive, like outwardly cruel, like proud person, but that's like, it's like, it's a cycle of abuse. You get it from a parent, and then you end up having personality problems, and then as the situation sort of deteriorates for him, then that gets worse. And I think he slowly learns. I think a thing that's really difficult about Guel, and I mean, people have talked about this online. People have a lot of opinions about Guel online, as I'm sure you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough because of things that happen at the end of season 1. Guel never really gets to get around to the idea that his dad wasn't a great person, which the show makes no effort to make you feel like his dad is anything but an asshole.
Yeah.
Chris Abbott does a great job with him. He is only presented as an asshole.
Oh my god.
But like Guel never gets to really have that as like an epiphany, and I thought that was really tough and really sad. Like, and like the only person who ever really says that to him is also actively like betraying him at the same time. So it's like, oh, so you never get to get over this. You will never get to recover from this. That's why I'm like, I hope at some point they like pick up like for like a movie or something just to have that closure, because it's like, that sucks. I love Guel a lot, and it is that aspect of his character is one that I very quickly glommed onto as like, okay, I get this. And it is pretty tough. I mean, he also, I won't spoil for the audience if they need to know what his romantic life looks like. It doesn't work out. It does not work out at all either. So I was like, okay. That's actually one other thing. I won't go too far into it because I don't want to totally spoil for the audience who hasn't watched it. But like, there's a portion of the show where like Guel gets shut down for a date, basically, and then afterwards he's like sort of hanging out with them, just sort of like hanging on. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there, where you like get shut down, but you're sort of like hanging out and doing this. There's like a line where like in the Japanese, I think we were debating on the translation of like they're about to go do like a mission, and Guel's line could be read as either like, "Are you sure you're doing this?" or "Are you sure we're doing this?" Or and I was like, he wants to say we. He wants to be included. He wants to be like he's part of it. Because I'm like, I 100% like, no, yeah, that's even after you hear no, there's part of you that's like, I'll hang out for a while.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you're like 16. So I love that. I love that for him. He does suck at the beginning. I do think he gets better. I think there are things he could stand to learn even at the end of the show. But like, I really loved Guel. It was a journey to go through that show.
Yeah. When I first started it, I was like, why is there men on the screen? Get away. Like, I was like, shut this man up. He's just won't shut the fuck up. And then you learn more about like him, and I'm like, damn it.
And everyone's favorite Bob. Yeah. Right.
Yep. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'll say as well, just because I listed it, Evangelion's one of my favorite shows. I'm like, oh yeah, I get to play a mech pilot that has like an emotional breakdown
Yep.
about his dad. All right, we're locked in. I'm like, this is it. This is everything I've been waiting for.
Yep. 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 I was like, ooh, it's a Gundam show, so there's gonna be trauma, lots of it, child soldiers, let's go.
Yep.
Yep. That's what Gundam is. It's just trauma. It's great.
Oh yeah, I love it. My fiance and I just got through because I had seen before the only other Gundam shows I had seen before this were G Gundam,
Mm-hmm.
and strangely Double O. I had seen part of Seed as a kid.
Yeah.
But like I never finished it. But Double O, and G Gundam were the only ones I ever really finished. I caught parts of Wing, but I could never watch it in sequence because I don't know, Toonami like aired it at like weird times. But we after Witch from Mercury, we went back and watched Gundam: The Origin, which is very fun, and then we watched the summary movies for the original Gundam series.
Okay.
Which are very good.
Yeah.
And we're gonna probably try to go through like the whole Universal Century timeline at some point. It's just that takes some time.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Gotta go through Zeta, Double Zeta. I think Unicorn's in there. I think
yeah. God, yeah. The first Gundam thing ever like I watched was like like I want to say like 4 years ago with Wing.
Nice.
Yeah, we got we borrowed the Blu-ray, and I was like, this is because I was like, oh yeah, robots, great, I'm so excited. Yeah. And then it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, they're all child soldiers, and I'm like, awesome.
That's Japan's favorite thing.
Yep. Oh my god. I was like, oh, this is so sad. This is so sad. And it gave us one of the greatest line deliveries I've ever heard, where one of the girls gives Hiro an invitation to the birthday.
Oh, I know
party.
Exactly what you're gonna talk about. The I'll kill you.
Yep. He just pulls out a gun and goes, I'll kill you. And I'm like, I had to pause it because I was laughing too hard. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah. Gundam has some wild stuff like that.
Yep.
Oh my god.
So
I love it. I love it so much. It's great. I love Gundam.
Oh yeah.
Mech shows are good. They, I feel like a bunch of people dogged on them, and I think, I don't know. People get weird whenever it comes to media that asks you to emotionally engage with bad things happening.
Yeah. Oh my god. So, how did you originally get into voice acting?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Steve Yurko.
And I'm Tara Sands. Now available from Maji Media is our new podcast, 4 Kids Flashback. 4 Kids is the company who brought you the English dub of Pokemon in the late 90s and so many other shows like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shaman King, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kirby, the infamous One Piece dub, and so many more.
We'll be talking to the people who worked at 4 Kids. Actors, directors, writers, editors, producers, engineers, you get the point. And hopefully get the answers to questions both you and I have about the company.
I actually worked there as a voice actor on some of the shows.
And I was a kid watching the shows and remember way more than Tara does.
And thank God for that. Steve is actually a professional storyboard artist, which gives some really unique insights into anime and animation. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts. That's the number 4 Kids Flashback.
Hey guys, welcome to the Patreon portion of today's episode. And if you want to join the Patreon, there are a few different tiers, like shoutouts on the episodes, as well as exclusive videos and behind-the-scenes content, and so much more, and even the episode a day early. Thank you to Gio, Keith, Blythe, Bunny, Mikey, Sheba, and Brooke. And if you want to join the Patreon or find out more, the link will be down below. And yeah, back to the episode.
Yeah, so as I said, got into anime when I was a kid. I didn't really know what I was going to do like with my life when I was a kid, obviously. I think I wanted to be a farmer when I was 5, and then I got more outside. I'm like, I don't like being outside, actually. It didn't. I'm like super, super pale.
Yeah.
And like I sunburn extremely easily, and then like I have like scoliosis, like back problems. So I'm like, I am injured immediately. I go outside and I just trip and I like, sunburn, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be in pain for like a week. So I was like, well, that's out. I think my answer when I was like asked in kindergarten what you want to be was like, I want to be a Pokemon master, and that was my response. Um, so I had gotten to I think like middle school, high school, and at one point I was like psychiatrist, which as the joke goes, you want to go into psychiatry because you probably need a psychiatrist.
Yep.
And then musical composition because I had trained in piano for about 10 years. And then I
wow.
was training privately with a music composer professor from like a college. But I think I realized that like a lot of the time, whenever it comes to music is something. I don't know if you like draw or write music or anything like that. Unlike acting, it's hard to kind of do it on command, where it's like you have to be inspired to make something. And I'm like, that only hits me sometimes. So I'm like, that would not work to try to make it as like a day job.
Yeah.
And it was just it was the like closest thing that I could find that I was like, maybe that's something. I always kind of knew I didn't want to do like a day job. Like, I think my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. My mom, I think, thought I might be like a doctor. And I'm like, ugh. So around that time, I had been cruising around. I think I remember the specifics of it actually. So there's a Pokemon manga. There's like the Adventures manga. Yeah. And I had been reading it at the time. I forget if I had physical copies even at that point, or it may have just been I've been reading it online. And I'd been around on like Pokemon forums and stuff like that for a while. There was this project that I just sort of found because I was like, oh, they should have an anime. They should make an anime out of this manga. And then I found that there was like this fan project to try to animate the Pokemon Adventures manga. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then they were like, also, we need voice actors. And I was like, what? I was basically like, what's that? And so like, and I remember like, oh yeah, like I remembered like on the Dragon Ball Z DVDs, like they randomly sort of sometimes start with like Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel interviews for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then I would like look through like con videos because I had never even been to an anime convention because I lived in the middle of nowhere. And I would see all these voice actors talk about it, and then I remember distinctly being up in like the middle of the night learning what Funimation was, and be like, "Oh my god, this is so cool."
Yeah.
And then I remember being like, "I think this is what I want to do with my life." So from there, I was like, "Well, let's try," because I had already done some theater. I had done like at that point, I had done like high school theater. I was in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. I think I may have already been in Once Upon a Mattress. And I had already gotten like singing roles in those, so I was relatively like, yeah, I might be all right at this acting thing. I bought like a crappy Xbox microphone headset from like Dollar General.
Yep.
And was like, yes. And I mean, it should speak to the quality of the project I was cast. And they were like, hey, it's gonna take a while for this to get done. By the way, it never got done naturally.
Yeah. Of course.
It might be actually difficult to animate about 70 volumes of a manga independently, completely by yourself without any funding from the people that like own it. Might be a little tough.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little tough. Yeah, very, very ambitious project, I'll say.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, it's gonna take a while for this to come out. Why don't you go check out this place? It's called the Voice Acting Alliance. I don't know if you've heard the name before in other interviews. But the Voice Acting Alliance used to be this web forum where people would, post voice acting jobs or like voice acting advice. It was just a bunch of people that mostly wanted to be in voiceover or were already in voiceover. It was moderated and sort of run by people that very swiftly afterwards became big in the industry. So like Kira Buckland, I think, Erica Mendez, I remember, Lucian Dodge. And the website, it wasn't perfect. It was a lot of people that because it was people at varying skill levels, and then people that were sort of like, actually, actuallying everybody when they would post like something that they did.
Yeah.
The varying levels of like competency and supportiveness. But I met some of my lifelong friends that I've had through that website. So I got added to like a Skype group because Discord didn't exist at the time.
Yep.
And then through like a couple like fan projects, I met like the 7 or 8 people that like I've hung out with basically since I was like 16 years old. And then I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this for life. And I fell in love with it. I was like, this is magic, because I mean, one thing about acting, because my brother had been like big in theater his whole life. I know what I look like. I knew, and the thing about acting was I knew like, yeah, there's not that much magic in, if I was to be like a film or even a theater actor, unless they stuck a crap ton of prosthetics on me, I'm never getting anything but like the nerd, right? Like, and those characters don't do a ton in movies. They don't get to do much that's very cool unless I were to, I don't know, go on the Marvel fitness plan where I don't drink anything but water and don't eat anything but like, I don't know, a grain of protein a day.
Yeah.
And work out to where I'm just nothing but muscles underneath my shirt. And I'm like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't think that was even feasible. So I was like, this whole acting thing doesn't necessarily seem the most fun. But voiceover, I can be anything. I can play all kinds of muscular guys in voiceover.
Yeah.
I can be the biggest guys in town. I can be, it can be all these magical things that I would never get cast as in real life. And I was like, this is, it is the closest you can ever get to just be like living in anime,
Oh,
to
yeah.
like living in video games or fiction or comic books, whatever your thing is. It is the closest I think that you can get outside of, I don't know, I guess just LARPing, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's the closest you can get to just being, to be the character that you like, the character that you get assigned. It's magical. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So how has your relationship with anime changed since becoming a voice actor?
That's an interesting question. I mean, so there's two parts to this, right? Becoming a voice actor. So the first part is when I became a voice actor, which like was when I was like 16 versus when I got into anime, which was when I was like 26.
Yeah.
So when I was 16, I got into voiceover. I mean, I met new people, and a lot of those people who wanted to do, the majority of people who got into voiceover through Voice Acting Alliance and sites like it, generally speaking, want to do anime. There's like a handful of people that are like, actually, I like cartoons more, and a fair amount that are like, video games are better. I remember, I think he's great, Michael Kovac. Yeah. He was on there at the time, at the same time as me. I think he was one of the ones that was kicking around like, actually, I like cartoons a little better. Extremely talented guy. Even back then, by the time I joined, when I was like 16, everybody already knew who he was. Like, I would talk to people who did, like, before even Has Been ever happened, people knew who he was. They were like, oh, that guy's incredible at what he
crazy.
does. But yeah, what was I saying? Right. Whenever I got into it, I had only seen like what was available on like Toonami, right? Like Toonami, like all the stuff that was on TV.
Yeah.
I think the only anime I had ever watched online was Bleach, and that's because I couldn't figure out when it aired, or like I think they stopped dubbing it for a while, and I was like, all right, I'll watch it on, I don't even think Crunchyroll existed. I watched it on animecrazy.com or something like that. Watch like 200 episodes of Bleach subbed, and that's what I was up to. So when I got into voiceover, I started making more friends, and all of them had different things that they had watched and different things that they recommended, and like they were deeper into the anime hole. So then I got recommended stuff, and I got passed like some other new shows that they recommended me. I'd never seen Ranma actually before I met my friends, and that became one of my favorites. I had never seen, trying to think of some other ones that were really big, because that was the big one. I'd never seen Steins Gate, and they recommended that, and that's also a spectacular one. Slayers as well. That was also one that I got told. So like just a stream of like getting able to meet more people that were into this, and thus like I got more connected to it. And it's like a drug that you take a little and then you end up, it's like, all right, it's not enough anymore. You gotta juice me up a little more.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. Being a voice actor, I think, put me more into the anime scene and sort of locked me into the path to try to do this. And on the other side, I will say, getting into anime, it's simultaneously, I'm sure you've heard this, it can be some of the best moments and some of the worst moments, right?
Yeah.
Of like, it's so great when it happens, when you get that opportunity. And the thing that you can tell yourself for years when you are not even like getting the auditions, when you were in another city and like you haven't, you don't have like a proper reel or proper equipment, you can kind of tell yourself, well, maybe if I'd been there, I could have gotten the role. It's a real, like, I could have been a contender situation. And whenever you're actually in it, then you start facing the reality of like, well, I did read for it and they didn't cast me. And you can read like, the biggest hit manga series that everybody loves and be like, I would love to be this main character, like one of the main characters. I'm so dead set. I love them. They're great. They're one of my favorite characters ever. And you won't get cast. And you just have to live with that. And it happens over and over and over. Because I imagine you've heard the booking rate for voiceover is about 2%, right?
Yep.
I audition, I don't know how many times a year for anime. Through auditions, I book maybe like 2 or 3 a year. And that's out of I don't know how many auditions. That's like 50 characters I audition for. I get 2 or 3. Now I've been cast as other characters that I didn't audition for through this other system. That like is purely just did the director like how you sounded, and then it's just luck. At that point, it's just you may as well roll a big dice and then pray that it comes up your way. Or they could draw your name out of a hat. You never know. They may have drawn your name out of a hat. That's what some casting directors are. I've heard a story of in the behind, or was it voiceover voice actor book, there was this guy that had yeah, I got this really big commercial job and he was so proud of it. And they later found out I eventually talked to the casting director. They happened to look at my audition first, and then they were like, man, I want to go to lunch. Can we just stop? That guy was good enough. Let's just let's skip over these other ones. And that's it. That's the only reason he got the part. So sometimes that's just how it is. And that same theoretically, that same type of thing can apply to anime, and you'll deal with that however you can. Some people just break down. I've met people in town who just sort of can't deal with the pressure of that, of even trying to get in, and it just they'll post angrily on social media, which also tends to mean that you will never work if you start but just vitriolically calling out people. Yeah. And it's tough. It's emotionally very, very challenging and difficult whenever, if you try to make this the center of your life, then being told no on it's like being I have a dream, and then someone was like, I don't care. That dream, slam, cancel. Yeah. But I mean, when it happens, when it works, every job is a miracle, right? This is incredible. Getting Hikage, I was I never would have thought it would happen. Getting Guel, I never thought it would have happened. I heard whenever I had been cautioned, whenever I had started here, there are stories of people that were you expect to only do Walla sometimes for the first 5 years. And then maybe you'll start getting named characters, and maybe you won't. And I've been extremely fortunate. In about a week, I will have been at Crunchyroll for 3 years now. It'll only be 3 years, and I've already done over 100 anime, if Anime News Network's to be believed. Yeah. And I am extremely lucky. I am so gosh darn lucky. And I'm very fortunate that so many people have trusted me and believed in me to do that. And I love it for that. And I love, obviously, my love of anime is not diminished. Given, you can see I'm surrounded by figures and posters and books and manga. Yeah. But it's, it's one of those things where it some days it can be harder whenever it's I did not book the big audition that I wanted to book, or I heard this audition that I really wanted didn't get to me because I wasn't at the studio, or I don't live in LA or something like that. Yeah. And you just have to sort of push through it, because it can be really tough. Especially sometimes there's a big anime that you really want to get into, and then you see who got cast, and sometimes you're I don't know about that. I tend to have that list than some other people, but sometimes the thing that's in your head doesn't match with what's on the screen, and you can just be and you have to in your head also be come on, man, you're just mad it isn't you. You have to also just do that. And I don't know. I've been floating this around in my head for a while. What do you here's a question for you. Here's a riddle. What do you say to someone who got a job that you really wanted, and you think you probably would have been better for the part, or you feel like you studied for the part and the other person doesn't deserve it, but they got the job and that's what happened. What do you say to them?
I'd just fake it and be good job.
You say congratulations.
Yeah, you say congratulations.
Yeah, because I mean, and that's the thing, right? And it's you have to acknowledge a lot of the time that the jealousy inside you, the resentment is poison, right? It's if you let it consume you, then you start being the type of person that exclusively goes out to dinner and is I hate everybody else that lives here, and it's it's not fun, you know. And and it. More than anything, it hurts you if you end up like that, and it hurts your ability to watch these shows, because you're I can't watch anything if I'm not in it. And it's I think that my relationship to anime is such that there are times where like there will be big enough disappointments that I'm like I can't quite watch this, but I'm not like mad at anyone, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I felt like I really wanted to be part of this and it didn't work out. And you live with it, you know. You learn to deal with it over time. A lot of the time, you just sort of are like, oh, maybe I shouldn't check out the big hit new thing outside of like maybe manga at some point, and that way I can go in fresh and be like, okay, maybe I like it. And it's like, oh well, glad I didn't care when I auditioned, because that way you can come in with a little bit more of like a tempered expectation. I hope this doesn't sound like I'm like I hate other people in this town or like I'm so angry at them, because I'm not. Everybody, God, there are people that have told me like, you know, I've been here for years and they've only used me for a while, or like there are people here that you know, they are I'm like, you would be spectacular for this job, and then they don't get it. I've recently had to talk to a couple friends who had a big audition come up that they didn't get, and they had some other stuff going on, and they were just so bummed out. And it's like it can be devastating, right?
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's the it's the entertainment industry. That's how it is.
Yep. Exactly. So that's 100% so true.
Sorry for rambling there. I know.
No. Literally, like, literally answered one of my questions, so it's fine. But yeah, like, so what was a moment so far in your career that you've gone, wow, I'm doing something amazing here?
Do you mean like the work itself is amazing?
The
like,
work,
or what I'm doing is amazing?
What you're doing, it could be either or.
I mean, I will say, I mean, oftentimes, just in general, if I get to do like any kind of fight scene in something, I'm usually like, oh, this is so cool. Just because I love, you know, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z and like trying to like scream along with the TV. So like getting to play Logi and yelling every holy sword form was like so cool.
Good.
Like I'm in the booth, I'm like doing this while I'm doing it, because you got to get the physicality in there. Gunbuster, I mean, like that was the case where I was so nervous because that was made by the guy that made Evangelion, and I was just like a ball of nerves. And then I remember because the character, I don't know how familiar you are with Gunbuster.
Not too much, but
it's really good. It's only 6 episodes. I tell you to check it out. It's very good. There's a scene I think in episode 5 where like the character that I play is a coach, and if you've seen Evangelion, he's somewhere like halfway between like Gendo and Misato, which is like a very, and also Kaji kind of. He's a very weird mix of things. Because he's antagonistic toward the protagonist. But like he is also like her mentor. Like there are many scenes where he's like, you have to do this, Noriko, as she is just scream crying. And it's like, you're the only one that can do this. And that's like the way that Coach is. Yeah. But then like in episode 5, he gets this really emotional scene where he's like talking about how much he feels like he has let her down over the course of like being around her. And it's just in that moment, I remember like my voice was quivering, and it's like the first time, because I've been nervous this whole show to get this right. And in that moment, I just sort of let all that out in terms of like just getting so emotional talking to Noriko about it. And that was, especially for anime specifically, that was one of the first big anime roles I ever recorded. That was the moment where I was like, I think I might be good enough for this role. Maybe I am, like, because I was so doubtful. I was so nervous the whole time. I was like, they're gonna fire me. They're gonna recast me. So that moment, I think, was where I felt just so connected to the scene, and I love that. That was that. It felt like that moment was the moment where I was like, it's okay that I'm here, because like, you know, you deal with a lot of. I feel like most people sort of oscillate between two extremes on this matter. On the, you know, are you familiar with like the Bart Simpson image of like, I'm a god, and then like on the other end, him like laying sadly on the bed?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
Most people oscillate between those two things. I tend to think that like pride and narcissism will carry you through, but if you go too hard into narcissism, then like you become impossible to be around. Yes. Whereas like humbleness is great, humility is great, but like if you don't believe in yourself enough, you'll just quit. You'll be like, I can't do anything. I'm not going to believe in my audition. I know some people who've just been like, didn't like what I sounded like for that audition, so I just tossed out, didn't even submit. Because they don't believe in themselves. Oh my God. And it's so tough. And it's so hard in those cases where like, you know, even if you know someone's good, if you don't, if they don't have the faith in themselves to do it, then like no one can ever hear it. And
It's true.
I at least, I tend to be at least sort of like of the mindset that I, and I mean this is kind of how I grew up being sort of you know, kept in my place by like other family members that kept me in check from going too crazy, which I'm grateful for. My fiance very kindly, very 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 kindly makes sure that I'm not going too insane in any one way or the other. But
Mm-hmm.
I tend to have a lot of problems. I think where I struggle with the feeling that I don't deserve the position that I have. Like you know, imposter syndrome, the feeling
Oh
of
yeah.
like I'm in this position that is nice, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and other people work so hard and just it never happens. I had to help somebody like they couldn't afford rent anymore because their one roommate decided actually I don't want to live here, and then I had to help them move out of their apartment and move out of Dallas. And the guy was like, I really hope I can still make voiceover work someday. So it might be years before I can come back here, and it's like, yeah, it's the world is such a tough place, and like
Uh-huh.
all I can kind of do is just try to help where I can, and try to be as good at this job as I can, because like it is again, every job is a miracle. The chance to even be here doing this is just so much fortune, and yeah, that moment recording Gunbuster helped me, I think, along in the feeling of being like maybe maybe I was right casting for this choice. Maybe I was right to do this. And obviously, like you'll bounce back. Progress is not linear. It's not like now I have
Yeah.
no self confidence issues
Yeah.
whatsoever for the rest of my life.
Yep. I'm perfect.
But that moment I think was one of my favorites, recording that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then it was nice afterwards. Gunbuster, if you buy the DVD, there's all these little after episode skits of like the characters in little chibi form where they're like describing the show.
Those.
And all Coach does is like scream. All he does is like yell. And it was so cathartic to just be able to do that after like hours of like emotional, sad, like space battles. To just be like yelling like, oh, you don't understand anything, Nordico. All you need is hard work and guts. And it's like, this is so much easier.
Oh my god. I love that. Yeah, I recently did a list. It was kind of like this not convention, but like podcast thing where you
Nice.
like listen to talks and stuff, and someone did a talk on imposter syndrome, and I'm watching this person talk about it and I'm like, yeah, I feel that way. And then I look over my fiance and she's just like, you. And I'm like, so I get that full-heartedly. Full-heartedly.
It's hard, man. I think it's human nature. Again, as terrible as it is, I'm like, well, if I had to pick a psychosis, I prefer that to like just being so up my own ass that I'm like impossible to be around with other people.
Yep.
I'd rather be like, maybe I'm a little bit too unassuming about myself, rather than being like, I'm going to every party. I'm better than everyone here. Like I could not imagine even like looking at myself in the mirror if I was like that.
No, God, no. Oh my God. I know a few people like that, and it's insufferable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I try to take everything as they come, and I've learned from my 30 years on this planet that you gotta be kind to people, kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I'll work out.
Absolutely.
So earlier you had mentioned you don't like gore.
Yes, it is just something where like horror movies, like here's the thing, I will love a movie like Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
If you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
I love like Perfect Blue. I love Higurashi.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I guess it's like when it comes to like if it's anime where it's just all it is just a geyser of blood where like people don't even really have organs, it's just blood. Then I'm like, it's fine. But like whenever you get into like viscera and guts and like you can see the bone through the skin, I'm like, I don't know what it is. I just get like sympathy pain. I can't watch like gory horror movies. I had friends who showed me God, there was one night where my friends were like, "Well, we're doing a movie night, and like we can pass back and forth." And I think I recommended something like Iron Giant or something like that. And they were like, "We're gonna watch House of a Thousand Corpses now."
Oh God!
And I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was like staring at the ceiling, like, "Oh God!" It's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, ugh.
Oh my God! Yeah, because like anime that you've been in, like Hell's Paradise and Chainsaw Man, those are like pretty damn gory as well. And like,
yeah.
there's points. There's a point in Hell's Paradise where I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's some messed up parts, but even
Oh, yeah.
that, like anime, I think the way they do it is, I feel like there's less of like, hey, we're gonna give you all of this, like even sawing through like Eternity Devil,
Yeah.
where it's like nothing but like guts and misery. It's also so like surreal and like weird and like
Yeah.
abstract that it's like it doesn't feel like I'm like having to like watch a guy go through like heart surgery or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's just I feel like there's that layer of obfuscation. That's the word I was looking for. Obfuscation helps me get this feeling of like, okay, it's not real, so I don't feel as freaked out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you an animated scene that made me, and I couldn't watch the show for a variety of reasons, mostly due to just personal stuff.
Yeah.
I remember it came up on my feed, one of the first scenes in like Invincible, where like the guy like very brutally kills like their whole like version of the Justice League.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like there are guts everywhere. I remember.
Yeah.
I think it's just because like I hadn't seen a ton of cartoons with that art style, so I was like, it looks like the 2006 like Justice League show, and then just seeing a bunch of guts everywhere, I was like, I feel real. I don't know what it was. I was just like, I feel really sick now. I wish this was not on my feed.
No, that's totally.
I can't do it.
Yeah, when I watched when I watched that episode, I was like, oh my God, like I swear it's more visceral than any animated thing that I've seen. Like,
yeah, no, I think, again, to me, I think it's just, I'm so accustomed to that art style being so sort of sterile with its fights that like the minute that you cut into someone, like their stomach comes out, oh God.
Yeah, and he like punches his stomach out, and I'm like,
yeah, like his brain's coming out.
Yeah,
like, oh God,
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can't like watch that stuff, man. Like, it's just too much. Like, again, you could show me someone in Bleach can get stabbed like 50 times, like gusters of blood coming out. It's like, whatever.
Yeah,
they'll be fine. Like a scene later, so it's like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah,
if someone gets cut in half, there's nothing. There's no bones. There's no anything. It's just it's like they only exist as like this solid hunk of meat.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. It's like when the Kafka punches the kaiju and they just like disintegrate, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
And the blood is falling down. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just meat.
Yeah, exactly. So something like No More Heroes, if you've ever played it. Even if Travis kills someone brutally with his lightsaber, it's usually just a bunch of blood gushes out, and then that's it. That's the whole thing.
Exactly. But yeah, oh my God. But yeah, thank you so much for being on.
Of course.
Where can the lovely people find you?
Sure. You can find me at you can find me on x.com. I use it specifically for just announcing roles because I don't want to support x.com.
Yep.
You can just look up Bradley Gareth. You'll find me. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I am much more active. Just look up Bradley Gareth. It's like Blue Sky's ads are weird. It's like animebrother.bsky.app or something like that. And then Instagram, Bradley Gareth voice actor. And then TikTok. I barely use TikTok, but I'm on there. Just look up Bradley Gareth and you'll find me. And then for shows right now, our Last Crusade is on this season, right?
I think
season
so.
2, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah,
I'm in that still. Hopefully we get to finish it this time. I know we got canceled last summer for some reason. I think regarding the animation schedule or something.
Oh yeah.
But, like, we're back. We're doing it, and I'm excited to do more definitely trustworthy guy stuff where the guy walks in the room like, yes, I will help you in all regards. I'm definitely not the villain of this season. So you know,
at all.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. All right. All those links will be linked below. You can follow me at Corky Cosplays on Instagram, Adam Corky everywhere else. Subscribe to the Patreon. You get episodes a day early, as well as exclusive videos. There we go. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.